He smiled for the cameras like they were old friends. The jawline, the part in the hair, the easy voice that sounded like Sunday school. He wanted you to think he was the protagonist of a misunderstanding, but courtrooms don't care about charisma. Courtrooms care about evidence. And in the end, what broke the mask wasn't a confession or a perfect fingerprint, it was a set of teeth. This is the story of Theodore Robert Bundy, one of America's most notorious serial killers, a man who weaponized charm, blended into the library, the lecture hall, the parking lot, and turned normal places into hunting grounds. For years, he moved across states, Washington, Oregon, Utah, Colorado, then Florida, shaping himself to whatever the moment required. Law student, boyfriend, helpful stranger with a cast on his arm. He had a face people trusted and a car that swallowed them whole. Investigators chased rumors, fragments, and fear. In the Pacific Northwest, young women vanished in a pattern that looked like coincidence until coincidence became a map. Witnesses remembered a Volkswagen, a man named Ted, a sling, a soft smile. The kind of details you second guess because they sound too ordinary to matter until they matter. He was questioned, released, re-questioned, and watched. He escaped custody twice. Cut weight to slip through an opening, cracked a window in a law library, vanished into night like a rumor you couldn't hold. And then Florida, Bowden Park, a stolen identity, a new apartment, and violence that roared out of the quiet. The attack at the Chi Omega sorority house in Tallahassee didn't whisper, it screamed. 2 women murdered, others beaten within inches of their lives. Minutes later, another young woman attacked a few blocks away. Panic spread faster than newsprint could dry. The country asked how a face this familiar could be this monstrous. The answer was not comfort. He wasn't an exception to the rule. He was a warning about how much we trust our own instincts. Arrest finally came after a traffic stop, a routine pullover that collided with a predator's luck running out. The name he gave wasn't his. The car wasn't his. The story didn't add up. And when the truth finally followed him into court, the lights found a man who still believed he could talk his way out. He fired his lawyers. He represented himself. He cross-examined witnesses like it was a debate club. He turned the courtroom into a stage and the jury into an audience. He stared down the lens and tried to make America feel like it knew him. Because if you know me, you can't fear me. And if you don't fear me, maybe you can't judge me. But somewhere underneath the theater, science waited its turn. Among the injuries at Chi Omega was a mark on skin no camera could forget. Teeth leave signatures the way tires do, the way shoes do, the way handwriting does. Forensic odontologists compared the pattern, a constellation of impressions, to a cast of Bundy's teeth. The alignment, the chips, the spacing, they didn't match a mouth. They matched his. That bite mark became a fulcrum. On one side, the narrative he performed, civility, intelligence, the polite wave to spectators. On the other, a physical imprint that didn't care about personality, backstory, or a closing argument. Teeth don't lie. They don't improvise. They sign their name and walk off stage. The jury watched the experts trace lines between the photo and the dental cast, point to angles and distances measured in millimeters. They heard about fibers, eyewitnesses, timelines, and the Volkswagen. They watched the defendant turn graceful, then angry, then sentimental, then smug. They saw a man who tried on personalities like suits and a pattern of violence that never needed an audience until it did. Guilty. And when the death sentence followed, he smiled again, this time smaller, like the last candle in a storm. He kept talking. He gave interviews. He tried to barter details for time, tried to reinvent himself as a cautionary tale about pornography and culture, tried to pull the camera back to his face. But the story had already outgrown him. He wanted a myth. What he left was arithmetic, Victims across states, families without endings, investigators who carried photos home in their heads because they couldn't put them down anywhere else. Here's what matters after the books and movies and late-night documentaries. Bundy wasn't a mastermind. He was a coward with good manners. He didn't outsmart the system so much as he rode the gaps between jurisdictions, the pre-digital era when files traveled slower than cars. He hid in the ordinary because he knew we worship the ordinary. A cast, a smile, a request to carry something heavy. He used our kindness as a crowbar. And the bite mark, remember it for what it represents, not what it glamorizes. It wasn't a magic bullet. It was one piece of a puzzle assembled by people who refused to look away. Patrol officers who stopped a suspicious car, detectives who tracked patterns through shoeboxes of index cards, lab techs who measured distances in fractions of inches because fractions matter when justice is measured in lives. When the switch flipped in Florida and the crowds outside cheered like it was a game finally won, the lights went out on a man who mistook attention for immortality. The victims didn't get their futures back. The families didn't get tidy endings. What they got, what we all got, was a set of lessons we don't like to say out loud. Evil is often ordinary. Predators study our empathy. And the smallest piece of truth, a pattern on skin, a chip in a tooth, can outweigh 1,000 practiced lies. Ted Bundy wanted to be the author of the story. In the end, evidence held the pen.